All right, so for this explainer, we're basically going to become historical detectives. Our mission, if you will, is to track the absolutely massive changes that happened across the Indian subcontinent over 1,000 years. We're talking from around 700 to 1750 CE. But look, this isn't going to be just a boring list of dates and kings. No, this is a real story, one that's been pieced together from clues that are often fragmented and sometimes even contradict each other. So let's dive right in.
So the very first thing we have to deal with as detectives is our evidence. I mean, how can we be sure about what really happened centuries ago when our main sources, these old written manuscripts, aren't always what they seem? This is without a doubt the central challenge that historians wrestle with every single day.
To really get this, you have to try and imagine a world without a printing press. Seriously, just forget copy and paste. Back then, every single book, every record, had to be copied out by hand. You can see it right here in this painting. A scribe would spend hours, maybe days, just recreating a text one letter at a time. It was an incredibly slow, totally manual process and, as we're about to see, a very human one, prone to human error. Okay, this slide just makes the problem so clear with something we can all relate to. Remember trying to quickly copy a friend's homework? Maybe you couldn't quite read their handwriting, so you just took a guess at a word. Lazy dog somehow becomes hazy log. It seems like a small, harmless change, right? But now, just imagine that same kind of mistake happening over and over, for centuries. That, in a nutshell, is the copyist problem for historians. And here's how it all snowballs. One tiny mistake by one scribe, not a huge deal. But then, 100 years later, someone copies that copy, and maybe they add their own little unintentional changes. A century after that, it happens again. It's like a game of telephone, but across generations. After a few hundred years, the version they're working with could look way different from what the author originally wrote. And as if that wasn't hard enough, there was the handwriting itself. Historians have to become experts at reading all kinds of different scripts. I mean, look at this. On the left, you've got the Nastaliq style. It's cursive, it's pretty flowy, relatively easy to read. But then you look at the Shikasta style on the right. Whoa, it's way denser, way more complex. Imagine trying to make sense of that. A single misread word could change the entire meaning of a sentence. And this isn't just a theory. Here's a perfect real-world case. This chronicler, Ziauddin Barani, he wrote his history in 1356. Then he revised it 2 years later. For centuries, literally centuries, historians only knew about the second version. The original was just lost, buried somewhere in a library collection. Nobody even knew it existed until it was found again in the 1960s. I mean, can you imagine? An entire piece of history was just hiding in plain sight. Okay, so if the written records are this tricky, what other clues do our historical detectives use? Well, they start looking for physical evidence of change. Things like new technologies, new foods, new ideas. These are the clues that tell the story of a society that's truly transforming. Let's see how these pieces help build that bigger picture. This 1,000-year stretch was anything but quiet. It was an incredibly dynamic time. You had all these new technologies popping up, new foods and drinks being introduced for the first time, and of course, the movement of people brought new beliefs and ideas that completely reshaped the economic, political, and cultural landscape. And just look at this list. Every single item here wasn't just some new curiosity. It was a catalyst for massive change. The Persian wheel completely changed agriculture. Firearms revolutionized warfare. And honestly, can you even imagine the food today without potatoes and chilies? Or the culture without tea and coffee? These weren't just new items. They were agents of social and economic evolution. And here's one of those game changers right here, the Persian wheel. Yeah, it might look pretty simple, but this technology was revolutionary. By making irrigation so much more efficient, it meant you could grow more crops, which could support bigger populations, which helped villages grow into towns. You see how it works? It's a perfect example of how one single piece of technology can tell us a huge story about the past. But you know, the story isn't just about technology and crops. At its heart, it's about people. A really good historian knows they have to listen to all the voices from the past, not just the loudest ones from the people in charge. You gotta learn to read between the lines of the official record. So this is what you might call the official story. The court historians, they were often writing for their powerful patrons, the sultans, hoping for a nice reward. So they'd advise them to keep this ideal social order, one where your place in society was decided by who you were born to and by your gender. This was the view from the top, the story the powerful wanted everyone to hear.
But then you dig a little deeper and you find something totally different. This is from a 12th century text, and it gives us this incredible glimpse into another world. It describes a small village of the Palayas, a group considered outcasts who were working as laborers. It's not some grand ideal, it's a real, vivid description of daily life. This was the reality for so many people. And this is the detective work at its best. By putting these two stories side by side, the perfect, polished ideal from the court and the gritty, tough reality of the village, historians can start to build a much richer, more accurate, and frankly, more human picture of what society was actually like. So what have we learned from our investigation? Well, we've seen that understanding the past is not simple at all. It takes a very specific set of tools and, honestly, a certain way of thinking. So here it is, the Historical Detectives Toolkit. They have to compare all the different copies of texts they can find. They have to decode that super difficult handwriting. They analyze the impact of something like a new crop. And, maybe most importantly, they listen for the quiet voices of ordinary people behind the loud proclamations of kings. And that really brings us to the biggest takeaway here. History is not some static collection of facts that you just memorize for a test. It's a living, breathing, ongoing investigation. It's a conversation with the past that's always changing as we find new clues and learn to ask better questions. The story is never, ever truly finished. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought. Think about our world right now. All our digital files, our social media posts, our day-to-day lives. What clues are we leaving behind? And what story will the detectives of the future tell about us? Thanks so much for joining this explainer.